Welcome back to Bolton Access TV. I'm Buffy Catella. This week we're talking with Catherine Pfau. She is one of the founders of Nashoba Neighbors, and she's just here to talk about what it is and what their plans are for the future. So welcome, Catherine.
Thank you, Buffy.
So let's start out with, what is Nashoba Neighbors?
So Nashoba Neighbors is what we call a village. And to explain what a village is, I want to go back to the beginnings. And in 1999, a group of people from Beacon Hill in Boston got together and realized that they liked where they lived. They did not want to go into a senior living facility. They wanted to be surrounded by this vibrant community and where they had friends and lots of things to do. But they realized they're getting older and sometimes they needed a little help to do the things that they wanted to do before so easily. So they got together as a group and said, well, how can we do this? How can we take control and not have to depend on our kids or ask our neighbors? Because people are reluctant to ask their neighbors. They're kind of afraid. And often people would rather suffer than call their neighbor and ask them for something. So they came up with a plan of connecting people with volunteers, but mostly themselves. They wanted to create a community where they could access the resources with a little help from volunteers, friends, whoever, and stay independent as they aged. And one of the most important things is they wanted to make their own choices on how they wanted to live and age in their place. Because other than, they didn't want to go to a senior living. They don't want to depend on the city of Boston to create things for them. So they decided that there's got to be a better way. And since this was the first one, they had to work at this. So they came up with a plan called a village, Beacon Hill Village. And this connects volunteers. They wanted to keep it low cost so people could afford it. And it would make sense for them not to look at a senior living facility if they didn't want to. They had an alternate plan to stay in their homes and yet have control over what they're doing. So that's the beginnings of the village. They actually got going in 2002, and they wildly successful. They have a paid staff, and there's many models of villages, but because of their success, so many other people said, hey, what are you guys doing? We want to learn how to do this for ourselves. This is a great idea. It's kind of like, we can do this here. Because there was such an interest, a group called Village to Village Network came into being. And this is a group that helps people get going. It provides resources for villages. So we had this great resource on how to do it. So today, and this is about 20 years ago, there are more than 300 villages in the works, and and still many more in formation today. So Nashoba Neighbors is what we call a village, but we have a slightly different model than Beacon Hill because we don't live on Beacon Hill. And so what we decided to do, we want to keep costs down even lower. So we want to have it with no paid staff. So our entire board is all volunteers. Everybody is a volunteer, and we want to work with the community. And we don't have an office either. So we have a virtual office, which works out great today. We don't need offices so much anymore, but so that's our model. And this is how we got going. We saw the success of other people. And the other part is we saw such a need in the community for this. We do have some great council on agings and some senior service groups. But again, we realize that people really want more freedom and more independence. And to make their own choices is really a critical thing. We became a 501c3 nonprofit earlier this year. So that's our exciting news. We have a really dedicated board of directors of 8 people. So we're working on things like getting our website set up. We're working on getting the right insurance because all our volunteers will be vetted and we have special insurance to cover them. So we have expenses that we need to think about, but they're not huge expenses either. So we're working on establishing a dues structure because our members will be expected to pay dues if they can afford it. And we're looking at maybe around $200 a year, which is a bargain compared to even a month in an assisted living place or a senior living facility. So we're organizing volunteers. We're going to be probably in a few months and enrolling members later this year. So we're still in the works of getting things up and running because we can't wait to open, but we also have to be careful due to COVID regulations too.
What exactly will you guys be doing through this organization?
We want to be able to provide our members with point-to-point, person-to-person transportation. So if somebody wants a ride to go to the doctors, we would like to provide that. And it wouldn't be in a van, it wouldn't be on public transportation or anything. A volunteer from the community would pick you up at your house and drive you in their own car to your appointment, and they may be able to wait with you or not, depending on the situation, and they would take you home. Another way we could provide transportation is if you wanted to go to an evening movie or a play or something. That way, you would have a ride back and forth. And transportation, as you know, in the suburbs here, it's a tricky subject. You really need a car to get out and do anything. And it's a long walk where I am in Bolton to the nearest store. So transportation is really critical especially for older people. Another thing that's important is light home repairs, things like changing a light bulb where somebody used to be able to just run up the ladder really easily. And, if you're 90 years old, maybe that's not such a good idea anymore. I know we tried to discourage my dad from doing that when he was older. It was a bit of a battle, but yeah, so you just don't want to take a chance of falling because a fall at an older age is a lot worse than if you're 10 years old. So things like that, maybe taking out the trash or shoveling a walk or something. But as far as little home repairs seem to be not big enough to hire somebody, but just to have somebody help you with something. One other important thing is friendly visits. People can be lonely. As we know with COVID, that social isolation is a big problem. And especially for people who don't have the ability to get out and, excuse me, and they're alone in their homes. So having a visitor come, again, this is all once everybody's vaccinated and things are safe to go. But or even just having somebody call you on a regular basis to make sure you're okay. That's really, really important. But that personal touch is really meaningful, and it's something we all miss lately. We'll also provide some short-term emergency support if somebody is home from the hospital and they can't make their meals or go grocery shopping. All they have to do is call, and we'll have a group of volunteers ready to go. Another really important thing, again, we've learned a lot with COVID, is help with technology. Zoom, people are Zooming now. We never thought they'd Zoom at all. But it's really, now it's at times our only source of communication with people. And who would have ever expected that? So, but these technological things can be a pain to set up. And we will adapt to other needs as they come up too. So this is where we use technology to help us. Our volunteers will check into our database, and they'll connect with people who are looking for help. And members can also be volunteers too. As far as our members, we like to think everybody's valued for who they are. And if they are interested, they can be volunteers, they can start a group. And that is really important, to have something that you're excited about doing, a place to go. It really can change somebody's attitude, and know that they're part of this caring community that appreciates them for who they are. And just to be part of that is really important. Um, it prevents social isolation. It can just give more purpose to somebody's life, because often as people age, they lose a lot. They retire and they lose that whole work community. They might lose a spouse, so they might lose their ride. They might lose, I mean, so a lot of things. Your health can deteriorate, especially at times. Um, I mean, there's two ways of looking at it too. It's more, one is kind of on an everyday basis, and the other is more of a safety net or an emergency situation, which you never know when that's going to happen.
So now I'm curious about, how is this organization funded?
So we'll be funded by three ways. Our membership fees, which I talked about earlier, and grants. We just received a small grant, which is great, and private donations from either individuals or local businesses and corporations. We're part of the community. We feel like we will be a great asset to the community. And so the combination of those three will keep us going. And like I said, we will have a low costs. We won't have a staff or an office, but we do have to pay for things. So, yeah.
So we talked a lot about what you guys are doing and what you plan to do, but I hear that you have an event in May, and I'd like to hear more about it. So what are you guys doing? How can people find out about it, and how can they sign up?
So we're really excited about our event on May 20th, and it's going to be free. It's going to be online, and it will be somebody from AARP giving a presentation called Home Fit. And Home Fit is AARP's program on what you can do to modify your home to make it easier and more comfortable to age in place. So they will show you, go room to room with small and big modifications that you can make ahead of time, which is probably a good thing, to change your home, to adapt your home to aging. And it's a wonderful presentation. I went to a live one a few years ago. There's so much information there. And this will be a certified AARP presenter. So somebody with lots of experience. We will have a Q&A session. And I think it really ties in with our mission, because we are encouraging people to stay at home if they want to, as another option. So I think it's important to tell people how to change their house and make small changes. One quick example would be having a handrail. Most people have a handrail on one side, to install another handrail on the opposite side. So that way there's always a handrail available. So that's something that's can be simple or not, but a quick way to make an adjustment. Another one would be the type of light switches that you have. Most people have the flip on, but there's toggle switches, which are much easier to manipulate if you might have a wrist injury or sore hands or something. So there are big and small options, and I'm really looking forward to the presentation. It'll be at 6:30 on May 20th, and there will be more information coming out. Right now, it'll be all on our Facebook page. There is a save the date on our Facebook page right now. But as soon as we get our registration open, there will be a link to register. And the way you register is you will click that link, and fill out a small form with your name and email address. And then you'll be on the list to get the link. So we will send the link from there as the event gets closer. So we're really excited about this. And if you know anybody who wants to join or wants information on that, we'd be happy to help them. And we also have some phone numbers on our Facebook page too.
So, do you work with other local organizations such as the Councils on Aging?
Yes, we do. As a matter of fact, one of our goals is to fill in the gaps between what people really need and want and what's already in town. So the Councils on Aging offer some great services. So we want to not compete with them. We want to work with them and do some of the things that they can't do because they are limited. So that's our goal, is filling in the gaps and working together. In fact, one of our board members is a Council on Aging director in Lancaster. So we definitely have good working relationships with all of them, and we're happy to work with them. They're wonderful organizations, and to me, as much help as possible is wonderful.
So, I have one last question for you. Why is Nashoba Neighbors important now more than ever?
So, two reasons. And one we talked about earlier was social isolation. The next reason is that because the population in our, not just our towns, our state, our country, the world, is aging. And the population in Bolton that's over 60 is rapidly increasing. So in 2010, the population over 60 was 12% of the total population. In 2018, that population became 22%, and it's still growing. Unfortunately, the budgets for the town budgets and Council on Aging has not increased. So right now in Bolton alone, the budget for seniors is less than 1% of the total budget. So people are aging. There's going to be more of us as time goes on, and no, people aren't ready for it. So we need to come up with solutions, and we think Nashoba Neighbors is a great solution.
Well, that was very informative, Catherine. Thank you so much for coming on to Bolton Access TV. If you want more information, I'm going to be posting a little bit of a infographic after we finish this interview, so check that out and feel free to email and or call Catherine if you have any questions. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Buffy.
Have a good day, everybody, and we'll see you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.